Do you experiment in your kitchen? I've been addressing some health issues as I always am. Nothing too major this time. So, yes, this is late, but it's here. I'm going to be sharing with you guys today a recipe experiment. So, I won't have any details for you guys, but I just want to show you because this is pretty much what I do kind of on a regular basis is I test out recipes. I always have to make modifications because of my restrictions and I am trying new things. And so again, I'm not here to tell anyone like what they should or shouldn't eat, that kind of stuff. Like I'm just sharing kind of my journey as I'm exploring different things to hopefully um better my health and all of the different stuff that I have going on. So that's what we're going to be doing today. You're not going to be seeing my face a whole lot. We're just pretty much going to be watching footage of me doing this experimental recipe. It's not like crazy or anything, but it's involving tofu. And I've been doing a lot of experimentation with tofu. I do actually like it when it's made correctly because I've had it and it's not when it's not been made correctly and it's disgusting. There's no middle ground when it comes to tofu. You either make it right and it's good, or you don't make it right and it's disgusting. There's no middle ground. So anyway, the reason why I've been experimenting with tofu, just in case anyone's wondering, no, I'm not vegan. I have absolutely nothing wrong with the vegan lifestyle. It's something that I think is very admirable if that works for you. I personally have too many other like dietary restrictions to limit myself in that way. With that said, I do think it's important for me to incorporate more plant-based meals into my diet for a number of reasons. I'm not going to list them all right now, but it's a really good source of protein and fiber and stuff like that. And so sometimes it's nice to have an alternative, and that's basically what I'm doing is just making so that whatever happens in this world or in this country or in the place that I live, that I have options. It's important for me to have options. I don't want to have to fight someone over a chicken leg if the tofu is right there and it's on sale. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. The recipe that I am trying today is one that I've basically kind of come up with on my own, but heavily inspired by a bunch of different like YouTubers and things like that. So I'll be mentioning some different people here and there as far as like where I got like the inspiration from and so forth. Let's just kind of get into the footage. Oh, I just remembered. So, this is going to be, of course, public for everyone to see. I hope you enjoy it. There is some footage from this that I did already kind of go through and edit, and it was just for like my Patreon community. So, the reason why I'm mentioning it now is this is going to be chopped up a lot. It is going to be all cohesive, like it's in order and everything, but it is chopped up a lot. I've done some pre-editing on it just because I was trying to extract that. I was basically doing two different recipes at one time while filming this. It wasn't my intention. That's just kind of how it worked out. So the last thing I want to mention, because this is an experimental recipe that I kept, coming in and off the camera, like taking notes. So there are actually parts of this that I just straight up forgot to press record for. So I'll be kind of filling some of that in with my commentary. I mean, that's the whole point of an experiment, right? Let's get into it. All right, so here I am. Getting set up with the tofu. Got my little Kindle. I'm always multitasking. So I am basically, listening to a book while I'm going to be, putting this recipe together. I don't remember what I'm listening to, but that's, a different blog altogether. I a lot of times when I'm cooking will use different types of salt depending upon what it is I'm doing. My go-to a lot of times for savory food is the Himalayan pink salt, but I do have other salts on hand for different things. This iodized table salt is what I typically use for baking. But for this recipe, I wanted to make sure that it dissolved into this water that I'm going to be using. And I thought it was the better salt for this particular purpose. And so what I'm doing is a method that I actually got from Rainbow Plant Life, where she suggested that in order to get that kind of meaty texture that you want from the tofu, the whole freeze and thaw method, while it is really good and I use that all the time, I wanted to try this method where she says that if you soak the tofu basically in a saline solution, water and salt, and then press it, it also is effective. So this is the main crux of this experiment, to see if this works. The only reason why I wanted to try this out is because sometimes I want to make something and I haven't thawed the tofu yet. And I'm like, oh, I can't make that today because I have to wait for the tofu to thaw. I don't like to thaw it in the microwave. I've seen other people do that. It doesn't work for me. So I thought this is a pretty good method where if I have, fresh tofu on hand and I want to get that meaty texture, I could soak it for a few minutes in the saline solution and make it that day, as opposed to having to wait for it to thaw. Again, it's all about having options. And so it's a tablespoon of salt, I believe, into a cup of water, probably a little bit more just to make sure it covers the whole block of tofu. But regardless, that's the experiment here, is to see if it gives me the texture that I want, and we will check in later with that. So that's gonna sit there, and I can't, like I said, I don't have any notes for you guys. This was an experiment. I have notes, but nothing that I is comprehensive enough for me to share with you guys. But I think that sits there for like 15 or 20 minutes. I don't know if it was in 15 minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know. But regardless, that's what I'm doing. I'm soaking the tofu in this. And the idea there is that the salt water will bring out the excess moisture, so that when you go to press it, you get the meaty texture that you want from the tofu, so that it's not like soft and soggy and, the bad kind of tofu. So this is me setting up my tofu press. People online will tell you all the time that you don't really need a tofu press. You just need some clean cloths and like some heavy books or a pan or something like that. And I think that's totally true if you're not going to be making a lot of tofu. Because I've been experimenting so much with it, it made sense for me to just go ahead and get the tofu press. I'll just leave that up to you as to whether or not you want to try any tofu experiments and whether or not you want to invest in a press. It's been helpful for me. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And it actually came with 2 little cheesecloths, and so it just kind of helped like keep it contained. Oh, and see, I remember, so this is the other thing. I was making some tea. So a lot of stuff happening in this video. Like I said, I did have to like chop some of it up in order to make all of this cohesive. So let's see, what are we doing now? Oh, here I am getting ready to extract our tofu. Checking it just to see. Yeah. Oh, I'm flipping it. I guess I don't think it's ready. Remember, this is an experiment, so I don't really know how this is supposed to go exactly. However many minutes later it is, I guess I've determined that it's ready to come out. So I've placed it, drained it and placed it into the cheesecloth, and I'm putting it into the press. And I know that typically, whether I'm thawing it or whatever, I was looking for that piece. I didn't know where I put it. That is too funny. That sounds about right. That's how my kitchen works. I'm always misplacing things. Anyway, I typically, once I've gone through either the soaking process or the thawing process, I will press the tofu for 10 to 15 minutes. So that's pretty much, what's happening here. Go ahead and like pour out the excess liquid. And so, okay, so this is me showing you the batter that I didn't film me throwing together. Sorry about that. I'll explain it while you see me preparing some broccoli. So basically it's 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. I think, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, and then any other seasonings that you want. The batter really isn't that important because we're going to be adding a sauce to it later. But because it's tofu, I never miss on a chance to add seasoning. So I did add half a teaspoon of salt. I added a full teaspoon of black pepper because I really like black pepper. And then I also added a teaspoon of hing, which is my substitute for like onion or garlic powder. And so I'm gonna put some parchment paper out on some baking sheets because I am going to be roasting the garlic and also roasting the tofu when it, well, not roasting, but baking the tofu when it comes to me like cooking it. And so I just crumble up the parchment paper, which it may not be necessary, but for some reason I find that I get better results when I do that. If I just leave it as a smooth sheet, I feel like it creates like moisture in between the food and the sheet. So I like to crumble it up to help reduce some of that moisture that I feel like gets caught on the parchment sheet. And I could be totally wrong here, but this is just me doing what I know works for me. It could just be extra steps. I will admit though, I do like the actual act of crumbling it. So maybe it's all psychological. Who knows? All right. So I'm back to the broccoli, which I like I said, this is highly edited. It's chopped up. So for all of the different like vegetables and things that I'm going to be working with, even like the tofu and stuff, they're being drained and rinsed and those kinds of things off camera. You've seen some of my previous videos, you know, my sink is right there. Like all of that stuff is happening. I'm just not necessarily showing it in the video. So what you see me doing now is not wasting anything. Like the broccoli stems are edible and they're going to be included in this crunch salad. I'm just getting rid of the woody parts of the stem because even though the stem is edible, sometimes there is like kind of stiff, like woody parts on the outside of it. So I am cutting away like those woody parts, but I'm not throwing out those stems. I'm gonna include the stems. They're edible. I'm not gonna waste it. The parts that I'm cutting off, as you see, I'm kind of putting them in a bowl there. I've been trying really hard not to throw out a lot of stuff. My husband is not on board with the idea of composting right now, which is fine. I'm not gonna debate that right now. It's going to happen eventually, whether he likes it or not. But for now, that is something that I can at least add to my stock pot because I make my own chicken stock and my own vegetable broth. So that will probably just go into that. I keep all of my little scraps and freeze them until I'm ready to make like a huge, big batch. Like I make a whole bunch at once because I don't use store-bought broths and stocks because most of them have like onion or garlic in them that I can't eat. So that's why it serves me well to save little scraps like this when I'm um, taking the skins off like carrots or things like all of that stuff gets saved for my broth. All right, so I am ready to I guess add the broccoli to. So yeah, I'm gonna be cooking the broccoli and the tofu, I believe, at the same time. So that's why I'm setting the heat up pretty high. The tofu will be closer to the heat and the broccoli will be further away. And the tofu will also kind of serve as a shield so that the broccoli doesn't cook too quickly, like and burn. But you definitely want to get some browning on it. You'd want that Maillard reaction to really bring out the flavor and I'm using avocado oil. Most recipes will recommend like olive oil for flavor because olive oil does have like a wonderful flavor. I've been trying to cook with olive oil less and less. Like it's good. It's like a finishing oil. There are times when I'll like use like the olive oil spray, but I'm slowly like moving away from that. I've got my own like canister to where if I'm going to be cooking with oil, I'm going to be predominantly cooking with the avocado oil, but I still will keep the olive oils and the coconut oils on hand for like specific recipes where those flavors just enhance it. Even though, you know, I want to eat healthy and, you know, work on, you know, like this diet that's been putting me in the right direction, that doesn't mean I want to skip on flavor. Sometimes it's okay to do the thing that's going to make you enjoy your meal. Because if you don't enjoy your food, you're not going to want to eat it no matter how healthy it is for you. So avocado oil is going to be my go-to. But as you can see, I've got some extra virgin olive oil spray there that I'm probably going to be using at some point. So now I am preparing a crunch for the salad, in addition to baking the broccoli, I'm going to be adding some celery. Not a lot of celery, because celery can be kind of overpowering if you're using too much of it. So again, rinsed and washed and all that kind of stuff off screen. I am going to take this one rib of celery and I'm going to be cutting it down just to ridiculously like small amounts, because I want the kind of peppery, gardeny flavor of the celery, but I don't want it to overtake the other ingredients. It's going to go into the sauce. And so it is going to get cooked a little bit, but for the most part, it's going to be providing the predominant crunch in this salad, along with whatever like toppings. Like I think I'm going to put like sesame seeds at the end. I'm going to zhuzh it up, but this is going to be the predominant crunch that goes into the salad. And so I'm dicing it up. This is just one rib of celery that I'm just really just dicing up a lot, so that I know that I'm getting a good dispersion of the crunch without dispersing the flavor of the celery too much into the dish. I really want the tofu and the broccoli to stand out in this dish. All right, so I believe this is where I start building up more like flavor for this. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna put this in a bowl, and I'm gonna be adding basically the sauce that's gonna season the tofu directly onto the onto the celery. I'm gonna get my words out, guys, I promise. But again, I told you that some of this stuff I forgot to record. So this is my version of ketchup. I actually have two versions. I'm working on a new version because I think this version of ketchup really isn't a good ketchup. I feel like it's more of I don't really know what it is. It tastes really good, but I'm working on another recipe that I think more actually tastes like ketchup. This is a really good condiment, and it definitely worked for what I was using today. But anyway, so if you were to find this recipe online, and I can't remember which YouTuber I found, they actually used like ketchup. So this is what I used instead. Soy sauce, you can see that. I've been looking into liquid aminos just because I do have some people in my life who are gluten sensitive. I'm not, but I do try to reduce my gluten intake if I can, if I need to, that kind of thing. Rice vinegar, just adding in some of the essential like Asian flavors, because this is kind of an Asian inspired dish, although there's absolutely nothing authentic about it. That is some toasted sesame oil. Let's see, what is this? A little molasses for sweetness, but not like a sugary sweetness. Like molasses is kind of tangy sweet. If I don't even know if that's like a thing. But yeah, it's kind of the difference between, white sugar and brown sugar. Like, anyway, because brown sugar has molasses in it. I am mumbling. Let's see what else comes up. Can't see what that is. That looks like ginger, ground ginger. Yes. I think next time I try this, I'm probably going to use the fresh ginger, because I like the flavor of ginger, and I don't feel like it was pronounced enough in this. Like, it wasn't like, this recipe doesn't come out bad. I'll go ahead and give you that spoiler now. It doesn't come out bad, but I feel like it could have had a little bit more ginger flavor. This is a wasabi powder that I'm adding here. If I add it to dishes that I'm not cooking, it does add like that wasabi like spice to it, which can be really nice. But because I'm going to be like cooking this sauce, I'm not getting like the full like spice impact of the wasabi powder. But it does give me the wasabi like flavor, and that's kind of what I was going for here. Like I said, there's nothing authentic about this. This is just me throwing a bunch of different elements that I like, that I can actually eat, into something that I'm hoping that I will enjoy. Because at this point, I don't know. I'm getting ready to remove the tofu. So I'm draining out the excess liquid off screen, and then removing the tofu from it, trying not to break it, because I always forget which direction I need to turn. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. It hasn't changed, but it doesn't mean that I am, not human and I don't make mistakes. So And so I'm going to be removing it, and got my little cutting board. And I just like washed the cutting board. That's why it was damp. So like again, I'm doing a lot of this stuff like off screen. So anyway, getting excess moisture off of it. Like I just, soaked and pressed the tofu. I'm not going to add extra moisture to it right now. And so again, this is paper towels, just trying to get all that excess moisture off of it. That's really going to help with that meaty texture that I'm going for. Like I know this works with the thaw and with the freeze and thaw method, but because I'm trying the soaking method for the first time, I just don't want to take any chances that it's not going to have the consistency that I want. And so another thing that's really good for getting, crunchy or meaty tofu is to kind of pull it with your hands. But I didn't want the pieces to be too thick. So that's why I cut it down the middle first. And now I'm pulling it with my hand. It's going to give me lots of surface texture, little craggy bits that are going to make a nice texture. I'm basically creating like a nugget here. This one I'm going to be infusing with like the Asian flavors that you saw me mixing earlier. When I've done this in the past, I've done very simple seasonings. I basically infused it with like chicken flavoring because I want it to be kind of like a chicken nugget, but that's not what I'm going for here. I did spray it with the extra virgin olive oil just to add some necessary healthier fat to this. Soy does not have any fat. So if you're going to be cooking with it, you might have to add some to it just to get that result. That's only if you're going for like that meaty textures. There's other ways to prepare tofu where you're not necessarily trying to mimic that meatiness, and you don't have to do all of that. One of my favorite ways of having it is in like a miso soup, and you want it to have that soft silky texture in a miso soup, but not when you're trying to make a crunch salad. All right, so here I'm going to be adding in that batter that I mentioned earlier, which is basically cornstarch, salt, pepper, hing, a little bit of baking soda just to kind of bump up that crunchiness as it cooks, getting that really good Maillard reaction on the food to get all the flavor that we can get out of it. And I'm trying not to handle the tofu too much because it is fairly, delicate, especially since it's been soaked in a saline solution and it's been pressed. I don't want it to become so craggly to where it's like falling apart. So that's why I'm using the bag and not just, doing like a spatula or my hands or something like that. And so here I am putting it out on the baking sheet. And so I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to be cooking it in the oven. I'm going to have this go in at the same time as the broccoli, I believe. And so this is going to be closer to the heat source. The broccoli is going to be further away. Once it is baked in the oven, the last step is going to be cooking it very quickly in the sauce mixture that you saw me kind of putting together with the celery. And I think that's the part that I forgot to film, but you'll see the results. Again, this is an experiment, people. So 425, and we're going to put it in for 15 minutes. And yeah, so after it came out all done, that went by so fast. Okay, so let's backtrack just a little bit. So basically what happened was once the tofu came out of the oven, I just put up like a pan on the stove, put it the sauce with the celery, all of that into it, got it up to just a little bit of a bubble, added the tofu and just stirred it up until every piece was coated with the tofu. And so after that, it was ready to plate. So I put the broccoli in at the bottom. I put the tofu on top. I topped it with broccoli sprouts and sesame seeds. And this was a success. I will say that the tofu was probably crunchier than I was expecting, to the point where I think some of it did dry out. So I think it's a thing where I kind of have to keep working on the method. I think for me, the thaw and the freeze and thaw method is going to be more beneficial, but I know that I can use this in a pinch. I think because the saline solution does pull out a lot of that internal moisture, that it actually made some pieces a little too dry. So overall, it was still like really good. It was very meaty. I was really pleased with it. I mean, it looks beautiful. It tasted really nice. Um, so the little bit of dryness that we got from it wasn't enough to like turn us off from it, especially since we know that we can always use the freeze and thaw method in replacement of the saline method, if that makes any sense. So anyway, this was my experiment with tofu, trying a new method. I have some other experiments that I need to do, but again, not trying to convince you guys to try tofu. This is just something that I did for me. Other recipes, of course, will be coming that will involve meat, vegetables, other things like that, because I'm an omnivore. Yeah. So do you experiment in your kitchen, or do you just stick to your tried and true? There's nothing wrong with that if you do. So until next time, guys, stay safe and be blessed.
Hey, if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and also leave me a comment. I would love that. Okay, bye.